This week in nerdy news, this is LTNN. One of the biggest frustrations that's been an issue for Facebook every year is that when accounts are hacked or locked out, Facebook doesn't make it easy for you to talk to them about it. The best they have offered is an ability to email them, which is difficult enough to find, but even more difficult to get a positive response if they respond at all. That's why there are so many double accounts out there. It's literally less of a hassle for most people to start a brand new account, refriend everybody, and start from scratch than it is to deal with Facebook's email account assistance. But that might be changing, as Facebook is running a small test of live chat support for English-speaking creators that, if successful, should roll out to all Facebook members. The ability to have a two-way conversation and explain situations would go a long way to boosting customer service scores. Other changes it announced this week include better comment moderation with keyword blocking, moderation assistance that can auto-hide comments with links or images, the ability to block a user along with any new accounts they try to make later, and a dedicated spot to view hidden comments. We'll see how these turn out. Let's be hopeful, huh? That was This Week in Nerdy News. I'm Radio Matt, and this is LTNN. I'm Radio Matt, and this is Reviews of the Nerds. Today's review is for Doctor Who Flux, the final full season of Jodie Whittaker's 14th Doctor, played out as a 6-episode story arc featuring some of the Doctor's most iconic villains, newest allies, and a few new companions. The coronavirus pandemic forced Doctor Who showrunner Chris Chibnall to change the format of season 13, and the result was a story in which the Doctor's quest to recover her lost, timeless child memories coincided with a potentially universe-destroying threat. Doctor Who Flux dramatically rewrote the story's mythology, something Chibnall has been doing his whole run, revealing the time's true nature is a malevolent force restrained by the Time Lords a billion years ago, and ultimately bringing the Doctor face to face with the woman who had raised her, Tectuan, the creator of the Flux, who had consigned the universe to destruction because of the Doctor's influence. This series had a lot of twists and turns, some of which were poorly showcased, and as a result, viewers have been confused by most of the plot. Despite this, it was an entertaining story that relied heavily on fan-favorite villains for a lot of its fan focus, but the storyline itself was disheartening. The largest criticism about Chibnall's time as showrunner is how he has upended the canonical history of the Doctor, the Time Lords, and a list of about a mile long of things that we've known to be true about this story. With the Timeless Child story, we saw him take a wrecking ball to everything that made sense about the series, now leaving giant questions and so many new plot holes from earlier seasons that make little to no sense with this new information. A lot of fans, including myself, were hoping that the search to find answers would uncover that it was simply an elaborate plot from the Master to make the Doctor insecure enough to let her guard down or whatever, but instead, Chibnall doubles down on the storyline that has driven many devoted fans away from the series. Overall, I give Doctor Who Flux a 6 out of 10. It was fun. It had a classic Doctor Who feel due to the serialized nature. The characters were fantastic, and of course, we love seeing the Centaurans, the Weeping Angels, and all manner of robots. But the story got too convoluted for its own good at times. Character beats were rushed and underdeveloped, which means the story lacked the emotional impact that was intended, and points have to be deducted for the further cementing in of this terrible, timeless child storyline. Especially since Chibnall's run is all but over and he'll be leaving the chore of picking up the pieces of his wreckage to the next showrunner. I'm Radio Matt, and remember, you've been nothing but trouble for me ever since we met.
Just wait. One of the biggest frustrations of being a military spouse was playing the hurry up and wait game. When having to move or have anything approved, our end of the process always felt pushed and rushed. The pressure of not getting things done fast enough loomed like a dark cloud, only to be met with the slowest of all slow-moving matters on the opposite end. We were forced to hurry, 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 only to then be told, okay, now wait. Comparatively speaking, the wait was always worse than the pressure of feeling rushed. The unknown, the limbo, most days it felt like torture to just wait. Over the last several years, I've really began to realize the double meaning of the word wait. Typically, we think to wait means to stay in one place, to anticipate something. For a second, though, let's think of wait in terms of service. We go to a restaurant and we're waited on by our waiter or waitress. I'm fairly certain most of us would be a bit annoyed if our wait staff stayed in one place and simply anticipated our order. To wait on a table is to serve them, to actively move and work. Even once the food is delivered, the job is not done. Their service still continues. We all know this to be true. We all expect a standard of service when we dine out, yet when we ourselves are in a time of waiting, do we find ourselves continuing to serve, or do we sit stagnant in some sort of pause until? Isaiah 40:31 is common and well known, a loved verse amongst Christians. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. Dare I say that someone sitting idle would not need to be reminded of their strength renewing. The possibility of them fainting is unlikely. What would be the need for them to mount up or soar if their waiting was keeping them in one place? When we wait on the Lord, our service continues. Our focus remains aligned with His plan, and our actions a reminder of the end goal. Even in this season, when everything around us seems to be in a status of hurry up, let's not forget to take time to wait. And let's not forget that to wait requires action pleasing to the one we're waiting on.
Have you ever been around another person that used a word or phrase that you were absolutely certain you should know, but you didn't? Of course you have. Well, don't worry, nerd, because we've got some great news for you. You're about to learn something brand new. This is the real world, bub, and you need to learn to hold your own in a nerdy conversation. So pull up an ear and pay attention, because LTN has another nerdy definition for you. Today's term is mind meld. In the Star Trek universe, a mind meld is a telepathic union between two beings. In general use, it's a deep understanding, hence mind melding. This is typically only achievable by Vulcans leading the process, but a mind meld can be done with most corporeal beings, even humpback whales. This ability is used for many purposes. Sometimes it's used on suspected villains to find out important information. Sometimes it's a method of uncovering repressed or forgotten memories. Other times it is used to more easily convey complex memories and emotions. So the next time someone puts their fingers on your face and says, "My mind to your mind, my thoughts to your thoughts," you won't assume you're accidentally joining some weird cult. You'll just know it's an overly aggressive Star Trek fan with boundary issues, because now you understand that reference.
Hey everyone, I'm Hector Miray, and this is Faith and Fandom 180 on LTN Radio. Spider-Man No Way Home drops this week, and I'm not ready. I'm not ready because I've been saying since the first time, like the rumors of Toby and Andrew coming, that, my family was going to watch all of the Spider-Man movies in preparation, because my children have never seen a Spider-Man movie that didn't star Tom Holland or Into the Spider-Verse. Like, they never saw the original three, or I've never even seen the Andrew Garfield ones. And I know that they're going to play a role. So we started prepping for this, a few weeks ago, and we watched all of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and we made it through that. But heading into Christmas, and we're about to take a Disney vacation and all these different things, we're not ready. Like, the movie comes out in like 4 days, and we're leaving for Disney like in 3 seconds. and I am not going to have a chance for my kids to watch these movies, and we're just going to be out of luck. And like, the movie's going to premiere Thursday while we're in Orlando, and we're not going to get to watch it in theaters opening weekend, which is freaking me out because I know spoilers are going to be everywhere. We knew it was coming, and I knew it was coming, and we watched a lot of other things. We watched some Attack on Titan. We watched some Demon Slayer. We watched Arcane. We watched different things, and we should have put some preparation into actually being ready for this, and I own that. It reminds me of this parable that Jesus told in Matthew 25, where he's talking about the 10 virgins with the lamps and the oil and everything. And verses 1 through 12 are the whole story, which you'll need to read for a little more context. But verse 2 says, 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. For when the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them. And if you're familiar with the story, you know that the story plays out that they weren't prepared. And then when they tried to go be prepared, they ran out of time. And verse 11 says, afterwards the other virgins came also saying, Lord, Lord, open up to us. But he answered, truly I say to you, I do not know you. Y'all, we need to actually live our lives with the preparation and understanding that we need to be ready for when we see Jesus, not like in an apocalyptic way, but we need to live our lives in preparation of seeing him. Remember to catch Faith and Fandom 180 every Wednesday morning on the Back Row Morning Show, only on LTN Radio. And if you'd like to learn more about Faith and Fandom, head over to faithandfandom.org, where you can learn about our Comic-Con ministry, podcast, memes, apparel, and book series. You can even read new chapters before they make it to the next book. I'm Hector Miray, and thank you for spending the last 180 seconds with me.
This week in Nerd History, time for tea.
Nerd History.
Here's one for all you history nerds out there. December 16th, 1773, nearly 350 chests of tea were dumped into Boston Harbor off of British ships by colonial patriots during the Boston Tea Party, a political protest that was the first major act of defiance to British rule over the colonists. It showed Great Britain that Americans wouldn't take taxation and tyranny sitting down, and was the first rallying cry for American patriots across the 13 colonies to fight for independence. In the 1760s, Britain was deep in debt, so British Parliament imposed a series of taxes on American colonists to help pay those debts. The Stamp Act of 1765 taxed colonists on virtually every piece of printed paper they used, from playing cards and business licenses to newspapers and legal documents. The Townshend Act of 1767 went a step further, taxing essentials such as paint, paper, glass, lead, and tea. The colonists were furious at being taxed without having any representation in Parliament and felt it was wrong for Britain to impose taxes on them to gain revenue. Britain eventually repealed the taxes it had imposed on the colonists except for the tea tax. It wasn't about to give up tax revenue on the nearly 1.2 million pounds of tea the colonists drank each year. In protest, the colonists boycotted tea sold by British East India Company and smuggled in Dutch tea, leaving British East India Company with millions of pounds of surplus tea and facing bankruptcy. In May 1773, British Parliament passed the Tea Act, which allowed British East India Company to sell tea to the colonies duty-free and much cheaper than other tea companies, yet still taxed the tea when it reached colonial ports. Tea smuggling in the colonies increased, although the cost of the smuggled tea soon surpassed that of tea from British East India Company, with the added tea tax included. When a settlement couldn't be reached and an impasse was met over ships arriving in Boston Harbor, colonists disguised themselves, boarded the ships, and tossed it all into the water. It took nearly 3 hours for more than 100 colonists to empty the tea into Boston Harbor. The chest held more than 90,000 pounds, or 45 tons, of tea, which would cost nearly $1 million today. Aside from the tea and a single padlock, no other damage was done, and reportedly the participants even swept the ship's decks clean before they left. In retribution, Britain passed the Coercive Acts, which placed heavy restrictions on the colonists. This led to a second Boston Tea Party in March of 1774, and 3 more similar events in Maryland, New York, and South Carolina. The colonists convened the First Continental Congress and fired back their own demands of Britain to repeal the Coercive Acts. Britain didn't capitulate, and within months, the American Revolutionary War began. I'm Radio Matt. See you next time for more
Nerd History.